Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Commander Pickups video for the month of August. I tend to make these videos around cards that are a few dollars or cheaper. Usually it's much cheaper. And the goal here is to find some steals, find some cards that really are undervalued, that for the purposes of building a Commander deck, you'd be able to buy more cards like these that will still help you out, instead of going for something that might be overvalued, overrated, and will cost you much more, like $20, $30, $40. It is possible to play on a budget and find some really good cards. But before we get into it, first I would like to thank you for helping the channel reach 39,000 subs. It means a lot if you have not already and you do appreciate these videos. I would appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. First up, we have a card that was reprinted in Battle for Baldur's Gate, Selfless Spirit. Originally from Eldritch Moon, this is one of my favorite spirits, because it's not just going to synergize with spirit strategies or even cleric strategies, but any kind of good graveyard strategy, such as Carador Ghost Chieftain, where you're easily able to get it back to the battlefield. If you're able to do that, you just sacrifice it every time you would have to deal with a board wipe or any kind of creature removal that would hurt you. At only $1.35, yes, it is a reprint, and yes, because it is reprinted, it means it could possibly be reprinted again, but that's not why I recommend every card here. It's not because I think it has the potential to become a $5 or $10 card again, but because it is very cheap and you are getting your money's worth with this kind of card. This type of ability is really abusable and can make it a very difficult task to deal with your board. So for the money that you would spend on this right now for the Battle for Baldur's Gate reprint, you may end up getting one of the best cards in your deck. Next, we have Polymorphist's Jest. Originally from Core Set 2015, and it got a reprint in 2017's Commander product. This blue instant is insane, and I've been saying this for a long time. I don't understand why this doesn't see a lot of Commander play. I get that in blue we have Cyclonic Rift, and that's a lot more powerful, but outside of that, we don't really have a lot of good ways of dealing with our opponent's creatures. This is blue's way of dealing with a lot of creatures, turn them into something like a blue frog, take away all their abilities, give them base power and toughness 1/1. That way during combat, you're able to kill a lot of them. So $2.28. The fact that this hasn't been overprinted and it's still this cheap, I think, is incredible. If you are looking for that answer in blue and you don't want to be the 1,000,000th person to play Cyclonic Rift, it's not going to deal with every single problem. Of course, you have non-creature permanents to worry about, but when it comes to creature removal, blue also isn't that great. So you need to think outside the box. You need to deal with your opponent's creatures in ways like this. And a bit of a disclaimer before we go further, this is going to be a blue video, folks. You're going to see a lot of blue cards. Leyline of Anticipation, another card to get a reprint in Battle for Baldur's Gate. It has been reprinted quite a bit, but it is one of the only cards that still does this, where you can cast your spells as though they had flash. Because it is a Leyline, it has an advantage over something like Vedalken Orrery, where if you open up with it, it's already on the field. Those games where that happens for you are incredibly satisfying. The advantage of timing is really significant in Commander, and being able to play all of your spells on your opponent's end step rather than play it all on your turn saves you the mana for responses and allows you to respond with spells that would normally be sorcery speed. So at only $2.42, this is probably the cheapest that this card has ever been. I remember back when it was so difficult trying to find this card before it got reprinted, so seeing it this cheap right now is really good for you. Next, we have Hullbreaker Horror, another big card that a lot of people talked about. It got a reprint again in Battle for Baldur's Gate. That set is just great for reprints, and it wasn't even a full year after its release in Crimson Vow. But all around, it is one of the most fun cards that you can play in Commander, because it's all about control. It's all about if you have a response, you're able to control whatever your opponents are doing. In Commander, I think it is a bit more controlled because you do have multiple opponents. This card in Standard and any kind of 1v1 60 card format is going to be pretty obnoxious, but at only $2.24, this is one of those cards that you could throw into a good blue deck that already has a lot of responses. So not only are you able to counter spells, but you can bounce non-land permanents. If you don't have a counter spell, then you play a removal spell and then bounce the spell someone cast right back to their hand, kind of like a pseudo counter spell. This is one of those creatures where even though it just got a reprint, I could totally see it go right back up. It might take a year or two, but I think the longer that this goes without another reprint, the more we're going to see it inserted in a lot of strategies. And when the supply starts to slow down, this $2.24 is going to go up to $5, it's going to go make a run up to $10 eventually. It's just way too good a card, it's undervalued extremely. So next we have the Magic Mirror from Throne of Eldraine. This is easily one of the more underwhelming of these legendary artifact mythics from that set, but if what you're looking for is good value for the money, I think it could be one of the best ones. The Great Henge is incredibly expensive, and honestly, I think it might still be worth the money that it is, but this is still pretty acceptable. When you consider that for a Spellslinger deck, it gives you that great cost reduction, so that epic 9 mana cost could very easily just become 3 blue. Because we see no maximum hand size on a lot of cards, it has lost its luster a bit. It's not like the days where you would just have Reliquary Tower and that would be your safeguard against having to discard at the end step, but it should be pointed out that it's a great static ability to have, especially on cards that do other things. At the beginning of your upkeep, you put a knowledge counter on the magic mirror, then you draw a card for each knowledge counter on it. So if left alone, this is a one-sided Howling Mine that just continues to grow. Granted, in a Commander game, that could take a long time for this to become anything substantial, but still, if we add up the value for the mana, ideally in a game where you have a lot of cantrips, a lot of Spellslinger strategies, you're going to be casting a bunch of those, filling up your graveyard, making this only really 3 mana. It's right there next to something like Phyrexian Arena. While that's easier to put into play earlier, the potential here to just be left alone, continuing to draw cards, not having to discard, I think is a massive upside. At only $2.06, this is one of the cheapest cards you're going to see here. It could be reprinted sometime soon, but even if that happens, I still think it's going to hold its value pretty well, because what does it really have to lose? It's not really a big threat when it enters the battlefield, and by the time it is a real threat, when you're drawing 4 or 5 cards at the beginning of your upkeep, you've likely played other cards that are more worthy of removal, so it has a very good chance of being the most underrated card in your deck. Next, we have a card that I said in my top 10 for New Capenna that this was going to be one of the best cards, if not the best card, and that was Body Count. Didn't quite catch on. I can't really predict how everyone's going to react to every single card, but I still like it. I still think Body Count has a lot of potential long term, being an instant speed way of drawing a ton of cards in black and not really costing you that much to play it, deserves more recognition. The spectacle cost, making it only 1 black mana, is super easy to get to. It just requires an opponent to have lost life. Someone plays a board wipe, you can recover very easily, and that's what I liked about this. It was super flexible, and even if you didn't get the spectacle cost, I mean 3 mana is not really that expensive. Only $1.83, this is an absolute steal, folks. It's one of those New Capenna Commander cards that I really thought that more people would catch on to. We have other things that are similar to this and reacting to creature removal in black. For the money, I think this is probably the best card you're going to see in this video. Next, we have Reiterate. This is the Time Spiral Remastered one. At $2.22, I remember when this card shot up because of the Commander option Mizzix. It was very easy to combo, surprise surprise, with a buyback fork. When your commander makes your spells cheaper, it's even easier to combo, but even if you're not looking to combo, this is still one of the best red spells ever made, offering yourself the ability to copy any instant or sorcery spell every turn, so long as you're able to pay the buyback, is pretty crazy. You'll notice a pattern with my Commander Pickups videos that a lot of cards that I recommend are reprints, or more recent reprints, and this wasn't so long ago, just a couple years ago, but that reprint did lower the card's overall value, and I'll admit it hasn't seen a massive amount of Commander play, but it's still one of those red cards that whenever I see it, I just know it's going to be involved in the next big combo, and then suddenly everyone's going to want it again. That's sort of how it goes with these cards. It's been a while since we've talked about Reiterate in any major Commander-focused combo. All it really takes is another Commander to really abuse Reiterate, even more so than it's ever been abused, and the $2.22 is going to look really pretty. Another card that's $2.22 is a card that hasn't seen that much Commander play, but it's one that I know can find a home. Cemetery Prowler. Another card from Crimson Vow, kind of forgotten. You got a 3 mana 3/4 with Vigilance. It's okay. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you exile a card from a graveyard. You get Precision and Graveyard Hate on 2 things that are very easy to trigger. And if that's not good enough for you, which a lot of people that would be good enough, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card type they share with cards exiled with Cemetery Prowler. So you're playing a creature-heavy deck, you exile a creature from an opponent's graveyard, which is going to hurt them, and all of your other creatures cost 1 less. That's pretty ridiculous at only 3 mana. $2.22 I think is a steal. Maybe we don't have a lot of strong wolf synergies yet, and since we're not returning to Innistrad anytime soon, I think it could be even longer at a lower price. I'm really recommending this because I know people are starting to appreciate Graveyard Hate in Commander. We have so many graveyard strategies that just dominate. You play something like this, you can really take them by surprise. Last one standing is a card from Battle Bond, and it is the most expensive card in this whole video at $3.27. But what we get here is a 3 mana board wipe that destroys everything except for 1 random creature. I like chaotic solutions to problems that you face in every Commander game, because while it lacks the precision that a lot of other removal spells have in dealing with exactly what you want it to deal with, there's always the chance that it didn't go the way that you wanted it to, which is sometimes exciting. The chance of failure makes chaos a bit more entertaining to play. However, I don't really even think it's the chaotic aspect that's so appealing about this, but rather if there's a large board presence, you have dozens of creatures on the field, your opponents have a lot of tokens, only 3 mana to wipe the board is a very good deal. Let's just put it this way, a lot of board wipes nowadays don't even cost 4 mana. And while they could do other things, they might gain you some life, they might destroy an artifact or two, get rid of enchantments and planeswalkers, straight up destroying all creatures for only 3 mana. It's going to keep your mana curve lower, it's going to allow you to play more spells, and that's often one of the biggest problems that players have. They have to decide, do I just play this or this? Do I wipe the board? But if I wipe the board, am I going to be able to play this other spell? For only 3 mana in middle to late Commander games, you're affording yourself plenty of mana afterwards to follow this up with more creatures. So this is one of the more underrated cards from Battle Bond, and yes, at $3.27, it's the most expensive one you're going to see here, but the value is just undeniable. Next, we have Hydroid Krasis. This got downshifted in rarity for Double Masters 2022, really hurting its value, bringing it down to $3.17. When this came out in Standard for Ravnica Allegiance, it was one of the most talked about cards because not only did it have great keywords, but you're able to cast it to gain life and draw cards. It's half of X, yes, but in Commander you have a lot more access to mana. The games are just not as fast as those games are in Standard. Plus, we have way more +1/+1 counter synergies to abuse this with, making the flying and trample even more relevant. It's another card that got a recent reprint, and its value is kinda tanking, but I really like it long term. I think a lot of people are going to be using this card in Commander and Pioneer, the most relevant formats right now, and they're going to look for creatures like these that are just good value. They get you card advantage, they get you some life gain. When you're down in a game, that's exactly what you need. And this card delivers. We know it's a proven card, it was good in Standard. There's no question marks about it. We know it's great. So even at $3.17, it's one of the more expensive cards you've seen here. But I think it has potential to again be a $10+ card in the future. So that's going to do it for these Commander pickups. So let me know what you think about them in the comment section below. Again, if you have not, please subscribe to the channel. Commander Void here. I will see you all next time.